All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our monthly customer webinar. This session is for our users to get a chance to work directly with the Evolve customer success and product team. We demonstrate features, go over some common questions, and then we will be taking your questions live. Please use the Q&A function to submit your questions, and we'll get to them all at the end. This webinar is being recorded and we will forward the recording to all registrants. You can also find all of our webinar recordings on the Evolve YouTube channel. So today we are starting off with a few announcements before we dive into everything mechanical related. I'm going to hand it over to Michael Reuter to get us started with a conversation about file syncing automation and 360 Sync.
All right. Hey, everybody. So my name is Michael Reuter. I'm the product manager for 360 Sync. I just wanted to kind of get the word out there to all Evolve customers, letting you guys know that one, we have a wonderful cloud tool now inside of Evolve Foresight that allows you to sync files between things like Autodesk, Procore, SharePoint, Newforma, PlanGrid, and now Windows. And because we can connect to Windows, we can also connect to things like Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, Ignite, ShareFile, OneDrive, Panzura, ODrive, etc. So if you connect to two or more of those things, 360 Sync is probably a pretty good solution for you guys. Okay. Um, also, since you guys are Evolve customers, we are also offering a 3-month trial for 360 Sync right now. So if that is something that interests you, then that is you can jump into a 2 or 3-month trial to test it out and see how it can save you time. I can tell you personally, for me, when I was a project engineer with a general contractor, it was my job to copy files from one place to another, and I was having to do the same thing 3, 4, 5 times. Just moving that same file to some place like our server, then to SharePoint for the project, then to BIM 360 for the cloud, and then to Newforma for the architect. So I was doing the same work 4 times, and so that's exactly what 360 Sync aims to resolve. Is just getting rid of the bottleneck around document management. And so I'm going to do a quick little demo showing you how 360 Sync works. Then I'll let you guys get back to your Q&A session. Okay. So if you see my screen right here, this shows 360 Sync in Foresight. The way that it works is you're going to want to click on the waffle and then pick 360 Sync. Okay. So once you guys, request a trial, we'll give you a license of it, and then you'll see the 360 Sync tab. Okay, so you click on that, and then you come over here to the connectors button. Okay, and so when you click on connectors, you can see I've already set up a bunch of connectors for myself. If I wanted to create a new one, I could just come over here and hit new connector. But if I'm going to connect to something like Autodesk, I just choose Autodesk from the dropdown. I name it something intelligent. I choose what I want to connect to. So in this example, we're connecting to Team and Docs, and then I put in my username. Once I do that, I hit set connection. Then I put my username and password credentials in here. And then 360 Sync's going to remember them. Okay. For Windows, it's a little bit different. You choose Windows as your dropdown, name it something intelligent, and then we would work with you to set up this thing called a Windows agent. Basically, it's just a little icon that pops up in your tray. You probably can't see that on my other screen, but you'd come down here, click on maybe not the schedule, but you'd click down here on your tray, and you'd find that, and then it would, if you right-clicked on it, it would give you this agent ID right here. And if you were to hit set connection, then you're good to go. Okay, so it's really easy to set up just about every single one of our connections. The most complicated would be SharePoint, and that's only if you wanted to create an app like on your own Azure account. But otherwise, SharePoint itself is also pretty simple to set up. So you set these up for whatever you want to connect to, and then you come up here to the workflows page. And if you wanted to create a new workflow, then you hit new workflow up here at the top. And so you name it. So we'll call this MEC QA. So we'll call this BIM 360 to Windows, and then we'll hit done. Okay, so once I do that, it's going to bring me to this blank canvas page. And so now I'm going to choose my connectors. And so if I want to take files from Autodesk and I want to back them up in Windows, then I can do that. Let's say I also wanted to copy files to Procore as well, then I could drop a third one on there. Okay. So if I wanted to take my data from Autodesk to Windows and to Procore, then I could do that. And so now I'm just going to come down here and click my little action button down here, my action tool, and I'm going to drag an action over. So right now we can only copy files, but eventually we'll be able to do all kinds of other things, like publish models or download, export data to Excel, and we'll have RFI workflows as well. But I'm just going to copy files this time. And so when I do that, it's going to ask me to start choosing where I want files to be copied from and where I want them to be copied to. And so I'll pick ACC docs. Then I will choose my hub that I want to connect to, then the project that I want to connect to, and then the folder that I want to connect to. Okay, so from there, I can choose a folder that I wanted to, or I could pick the root folder. Okay, but I'm just going to pick this coordinations folder. Okay, so I want to copy all of my coordination documents from Autodesk, and I want to copy them first to Windows. Oh, just got an oops right there. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's try this again. Sorry about that. So I'm not sure what happened there, but let's just say we're going to Procore this time rather than whatever just happened there. Okay, so again, I'll pick that folder. And now I'll pick Procore. And we can take files to the documents tool. And then if I wanted to, same thing, I could drop those files directly into the Procore root folder for the documents, or I could pick a folder that already exists, or I could create a folder. And we'll just do that. Okay, so I'll create a folder, then I'll come down here and find it here in a second. There we go. And I'll hit next, okay? So now all I have to do is enable my sync and then choose how I want to run my sync, okay? So there's 3 ways to do that. I can sync my files now. I can schedule a sync. So I could choose to have it run Monday through Friday, for instance, and I could pick a time. So since it is 2:07 right now, I'll pick 2:08. Okay, so if I wanted this to run every day, Monday through Friday at 2:08 p.m., I'll just hit save. But the real power in this is to have this run in real time. So what I mean by that is, right, if we hit save and sync right now, 360 Sync's going to run. And it's going to upload everything from, or it's going to download everything from Autodesk and upload it to Procore, okay? Then once that's done, as soon as you make a change in Autodesk, it will, as soon as you've saved that file up there or made an edit to that file, it will recognize that and it'll push that file within moments, if not seconds, to Procore. And so that's pretty much it. Hopefully that was helpful. But again, my call to action to you guys is, if this is something that you think would solve a problem for you, for me, like I said, it would have saved me about an hour a day. We are offering a 3-month trial for all existing Evolve customers to test this out and see if that's something that is of value to them. Okay, we will help you set it up. We'll make sure that we've got your first sync running before before we're off the call, and you know, you can use it as much as you want for that 3-month period. So if that's something that interests you, just reach out to me or to anybody else on this call, and we'll help you out. Okay, so appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm going to throw your email here in the chat for everyone to make it easy to reach out to you.
Yes.
And with that, I want to pass it over to Lucas, who has some announcements for us regarding mechanical content in Revit. Lucas, please.
Thanks, Marina. Some of you might remember me from last month. I am the Evolve product manager overseeing our content development. Last month, I announced our intent to develop our RFA mechanical library past its current point, and really put a lot of resources to this over the near future releases. And we called for your input as to what we needed to build, what content needed to be created and provided by Evolve. Thank you to all of you that responded. We have a great list of content to build now, much of which fortunately aligned with our intent and some of the stuff that we had already started, and then some that we weren't really aware of. So thank you again to everyone that contributed their thoughts. Some of these items include things you'd expect: rooftop units, fan coil units, control valves, VAV boxes, boilers and various accessories for them, all sorts of pumps, lots of different items. One user commented regarding the ability for Evolve users to opt in to these families. I had some hesitation about the effect they'll have on their models and any shared parameters we include. I just want to make it clear, our intent with these RFAs will be that we'll provide them in our family browser, just like any other RFA. And you'll be able to use them or ignore them. It's entirely up to you. Additionally, there were some comments regarding the construction of these families. I want to clarify our design intent there. We're trying to keep these as generic as possible. Again, the goal here is to get something that will serve you when you're modeling and selecting equipment for a given job, something that has a generic geometry that makes sense for what it is. You know, you look at it, that looks like a rooftop unit. You look at a boiler, it looks like a boiler. Just enough geometry so that it works and doesn't get too heavy. Additionally, we're going to keep them light. We're going to try to minimize the nested families within them and only have the necessary metadata and linkage that we need for you to be successful with these families. Another user mentioned connectors. Our goal will be to include essential connection points as Revit connectors and try to make them as configurable as possible, that being both size and location, kind of the big sticking points right there. There's also a comment about clearances. In our electrical families, we do use clearances for quite a few families. We will mimic that with our mechanical families and include those where applicable. So next steps, we're going to send out this message one more time just to see if we can get any more feedback. But really, the next step is to prioritize some of this stuff. I have some ideas about what we need to start with just based on what we've seen in customer models and just what the industry calls for on a day-to-day basis. But our intent will be to send out a survey to you all and continue to get your feedback. That survey will basically be an opportunity for you to vote on the items we decide to build in this first iteration and effectively steer the ship for us. Make sure that we're building the content that you need now. So look out for that survey. We'll be out in the coming weeks here, and please continue to provide us with your feedback so that we can continue to build the best content we can for you. Thank you. Thanks, Marina.
Thank you so much, Lucas. And I have added into the chat a link, and that link will take you to a page where you can submit your thoughts and comments on what type of RFAs you'd like to see added to the Evolve Mechanical Library. Great. So with that, we'll start diving into things with Product Manager Adam Heon.
All right. Thanks, Marina. Let me take the screen here. So yeah, this is what Lucas was just mentioning, the link that's in the chat here to vote, leave your comments. Just note that when you do comment and vote on these with your email, as status changes, or I believe even when additional people make comments, you'll get, I believe you will get notified through our feature upvote site that comments or statuses are changing. So just more the reason to vote on it and just leave your comment to get up to date. All right, so today what I wanted to cover is the 7.0 release, which came out a couple weeks ago. So I'm just going to go through the release notes, go through and demo some of the new features and changes, and then I'll leave it open for Q&A at the end. The installers are found on the website evolvingp.com/downloads, and you'll find the 7.0 installers along with the release notes. Something to note as an update to the website is there's a new button for archives. This now hosts all the archived versions, starting when we changed our licensing system back in 5.4. But basically, all those installers are included. Also at the very bottom are the 2019 installers, which do use the new licensing system, but they are back on version 4.4, so pretty old there. And also on this topic, there is a hotfix for Revit 2020 available. Essentially what this hotfix has is a few minor changes, but the big one is it removes the Foresight project link requirements. So when you fire up Revit for the first time or open a project, it forces you to link a project that is removed. So you can take advantage of that. There's a few other things that we threw in there as far as some bug fixes and enhancements. But other than that, it's basically the same 6.4 version. Okay, so jumping into the 7.0 release notes. So 7.0 was our 24 support version. So in return, we dropped 2020. So we are maintaining 4 versions, just like Autodesk. So obviously next year we will drop 21 and move on to 25. So I'll go through the new things first. There's a few that I can demo here, and then we'll get into some of the changes and talk through those. So the first one here is the Quick Dimension tool. So it's a new button within Quick Dimensions. There's a few different options. There is a config for this. So I'll kind of go through the general intent behind the tool and then kind of layer in different options and what they're there for. But basically, the intent of the tool is to create, pick a leader style that you want to use, and basically quickly dimension system elements, whether you're dimensioning pipe, duct, what have you, but basically focusing on system elements, the straights. So basically highlight your elements, click a position, set a dimension line, just a quick way to dimension. So with that, there's a few selection options you can enable, which kind of change how the tool can work. So I'll go through those now, kind of piece by piece here. Question just came in about not dimensioning the width of rectangular duct. So kind of brings me to our first option here. The first thing you can set here is a method to dimension. So center to center hits the centers of all elements. Edge to edge hits the edges of all elements. And then center to edge hits the center of straights to the edges of the centers of round elements like pipe, conduit, and then the edges of non-round items. So it's basically the three options really that you could potentially dimension. So the second set of options here is impacts your selection and kind of this prompt for handle position. So let me run through a few of these just so you can see how they act in different ways. So I'm going to uncheck this prompt for handle position, and we're going to rerun the command. So now the only thing that is set is my center here. I'll just do a center to everything. Okay, so I'll run the tool and I'll make a selection, hit finish. You'll see my dimension line here kind of came all the way to the right. So to answer the question, this is how you can dimension center to duct. Just select the center to center option. But without prompting for my handle position, the dimension line basically goes to the extents of what was selected. So I think because of this grid line was selected, it went all the way to the right. So this, if that option for prompt for handle is not on and you're zoomed in to something like this, that dimension line can go off screen on you. So just be aware of that. If the tool ran and you didn't see the dimension, you should maybe just zoom out and make sure it doesn't wind up somewhere. But I think the prompt for handle makes sense to just keep that on. These next two are basically if you want to add additional reference points to select from. So let's just say I want to, let's see, what do I have? I don't have any other edges. Let's just say I want to dimension from the edge of this ductwork. I should be able to do that versus dimensioning the ductwork. Actually, let me just put in something else somewhat realistic here. Let's bring in a hanger family actually. So I'm looking for something just with an edge that I can reference off of. So I'm going to use a hanger family. And bring that in here. All right. So let's say I'm just going to dimension off the edge of the hanger to my pipes there. So what I want to do is I'll enable this select element edges. And essentially what that does now is it enables a second set of selections. So my first selection would be, the system elements that I want. And then the second selection is my edges. And you'll see my selection method is just edges of things. Yeah, I couldn't get off a piece of duct, but I can get edges of basically non-system items. So if I just want this little edge, I can click that and hit finish. And then I prompt for my handle where it lands. And then I can get that dimension. The second option here is enabling linked models. So I have a linked model here and I'm going to have a wall. So by enabling this, when I run the tool again, select my first system elements. Now my wall selection method is available. Same with the with edges. I can select edges or links. So it's basically like enabling a selection method is what that does. So if you're commonly dimensioning off other reference points, walls, whatever, basically you just keep everything on. But I can select the wall, hit finish. Oh, I probably did a misclick there. And now I get off the wall there. Now, both of those selection methods can be completely bypassed. So if I wanted to dimension a bunch of edges, I mean, really just run the dimension command, you can still use the same tool essentially. So if I hit the tool and I don't want to select any system things, I can just hit finish. And now I'm going to my second selection and I can just start hitting edges of other things and hit finish and dimension. So there's no requirement to make the selection, and same with same that I could bypass the first selection, I could just skip the second selection. So if The first time I wanted to dimension just the systems, the center to centers of things, I can do that. And then just click finish through the second selection and not select anything. It's fine. So really use the configuration to adapt how you're using the tool. If you're never really dimensioning off links, it's just turn it off. It's one less thing you can click on. So it just makes it easier to select. There's a maximum set of elements here, so the thing doesn't will max out when you're trying to dimension a crazy amount of things. It's not what the intent is. Continue dimensioning just keeps it in dimension mode. So I was dimensioning off of what have you. I actually ran the tool. So once I skip this second selection, place a dimension, it still stays active. So I can go somewhere else, make a selection, select the wall. So I can just keep going and going until I hit escape. So a couple things to note too, what you should have noticed is when I'm running this command, we have the action prompt being displayed. It's the same text that's displayed in the lower left, but it's bringing it kind of front and center to your attention. If you try to move it, you'll get this warning saying you have to shut it off in your settings. By default, we turn this thing on. If you're in your workstation settings, there's an option right here. So you can change it from upper left to bottom left, or you can just do not display it. But the intent there is to walk you through the actions that you have to take through each step. So if you're very familiar with the tools, obviously you can shut them off, but it's really to help people new to the tools or new to Evolve. Couple questions here. Can you give unique dimensions from the column line to each element you bulk select? Unique dimensions. Oh, you can't do unique dimensions, but I think what you're referring to kind of are like running dimensions. Maybe this is what you're talking about, and I'll see. So if I want to select something here and that, finish there. So that would be a running dimension, which is unique for each element. So that could definitely be done. You would just set your leader style to be running type. Basically, this is a Revit thing, but your dimension style has to be set to a running dimension. Where is it? Somewhere. Maybe it's baseline. I think that's what it is. Second question here, is there a way to deactivate the Evolve mechanical selection process bar so the very large blue text does not appear on the screen? Yep. So yeah, just went over that. So hopefully just to reiterate, go to your workstation settings and turn it off, do not display. The other thing here to note is we've added this press enter key. So anytime you see a command with Evolve, which is basically any selection command. So if I selected elements, I have to hit finish. I can hit the enter key and it hits, goes through the prompts. So note that that's an option as well. All right. So I think that's a quick dimension. Hopefully it's useful. And hopefully everything makes sense there, but certainly send us feedback as you have it. Next thing here is spacing and alignment. So this was a slight change to what the tool previously was. There used to be two different buttons. It's now one. The reason for that, it was a core feature, and it was being handled two different ways. Again, our goal is to standardize between our products when it makes sense, and this made sense. So now when you click the button, it's one UI, whether you're doing elevation or spacing. You can basically disable one versus the other if you want to. The added enhancement here is to align multiple rows. Very applicable for electrical, but if you had a multi-road set of elements like the pipes here, let me put some dimensions to this so we can kind of just see it. So I'll just dimension the bottom ones here. Why I just did that dimension tool and not the quick dimension, I don't know. Anyway, so the align tool having multiple tiers basically enables that type of a selection. So by having that checked, you're still going to select your stationary run, but now you can select everything and hit finish, and then everything will adjust the spacing accordingly. We are not setting multi-tiered elevations to deal with this. So those elevations are going to be assumed to be accurate, and we will handle the spacing of those. Okay, so the next one is the view rotation. So this was a really good one. So quite often buildings are not square or project square. So what you're dealing with for elements that are somewhat angled, I'll just create a sheet from here and just select something. So I have this grouping of elements. I'm going to make a spool. So what you'd be used to getting is something like this, where all your plan and section views are slightly angled because everything is basically project north or square to the Revit origin. So what you can do now is when you define a spool and it's one of these spools that are at an angle, when they're in the prefab manager, you can calculate a rotation angle. When you click this button, it's going to give you two options. Essentially, the method that is mainly used is it takes whatever the longest straight element is of the spool, and it uses that to square the view up to figure out what it's got to rotate everything by. It's telling you here that you can also say yes if you want to look for a scope box that can determine the rotation angle. If the spool did not contain some straight element, that would be another method to use. It really doesn't matter if you hit yes or no. At the end of the day, yes or no is going to try to calculate a rotation angle. Oftentimes you'll get the same exact result. You could get different results potentially. So it kind of gives you a way to get a different angle here. But if I hit no, you'll see I get some angle there. If I calculate it again and hit yes, it's the same angle because there's no scope box that would change it here. But anyway, that angle would now be applied to the spool. And in this case, since I've already made the sheet, I would just re-spool it and hit OK. But you could run this calculation before the spools are generated, so you wouldn't have to. But now I get nice square views here. So again, the intent would be you could certainly just run the calculation tool on a whole group of spools and see what comes out. I mean, if it's square, it's square. If it's not, it's going to get an angle. So it's certainly a function you could run before generating your sheets. Or if you identify a sheet and it's a random sheet that comes out not right, you could always regenerate the sheet with a new rotation angle. This field can be manually entered in. So if for whatever reason Evolve isn't calculating it correctly, obviously let us know, but you could certainly type in a value in there and that's the rotation angle that it will take. So worst comes to worst, you can do that. Yeah, definitely let us know what you think on this one. A couple other things for the prefab manager. I think we added the weights column here, which is just summing up the weight parameter. And then also you have a delete spool function that you can perform from the prefab manager itself. All right, so let's go through some of these improvements. Some of them I may show, or some of them I may not. So let's start here at the top. Linked elements querying. So let me show this one because I think this is it's something we're going to use in the future to do a lot more with, but it's a very powerful tool or enhancement that we made to our data profiles. So think of when we're querying a project file, a Revit file, you can use the find elements tool and query everything in there. But the enhancement allows us to now query linked models. So I'll try to make I'll make a simple use case here or just a simple concept. I'll do walls and windows because all I have is an architectural, but if you had a mechanical model or something, think of it in those terms. But basically what I'm going to do is I want to query all the walls and windows in my link. So I have two categories defined, and under here I have a tab called linked models, which I can now query that linked model. So with that defined, what I can do here is, oh, let me just go back. I didn't set any parameters. Got to look at something. So let's do family, and we'll return the family name and type. We'll do type name, and I don't know if there's another random parameter. Let's see. I don't know if description will have anything, but let's just try it. All right. So I guess just at a high level, I'm purposefully not describing what a data profile is, but just if you're not familiar with this, essentially it's a method to create your own kind of container, define what parameters you want to use, and kind of do some cool stuff with. But for this purpose, we're going to use the find elements tool. So find elements, when you open this up, I will pull it out here and make this a little bigger. First thing you do is refresh this so I can pull in my data profiles. There's my walls and windows, and I'm going to hit search. So you'll see these are all blue because all of this data is being pulled from the link. So use case could be if you needed to quantify if you wanted to extract quantities from an engineer's model for diffusers, for general lengths of or quantities of fittings and things like that, or certain equipment and return the equipment naming convention or what have you. It basically gives you the ability to query that data. And certainly in the future, or even now, you can send this stuff to a data table. So be expecting to see some of this stuff from us because we'll put together some use cases for this. I see a lot of potential for this. So that will cover that item there. And to note on this topic, again, I breezed through kind of a complicated thing there, but the sample models will be posted soon, which will have examples of a lot of this stuff in there. So that's what we'll plan on doing there. Options on colorizer, you can hold shift when using reset view in an element filter. So one thing that was pointed out in the evolve element filter tool, if you use the reset view, it would override your colorizer rule. There's now a shift function because it was the only place we didn't have a shift function. And now you can basically clear the view and then execute the colorizer rules for that view. so everything gets updated. So a quick little tool there. Continuous single union placement, that's the union tool here. It's just an option, or when you do single placement, it just stays active, so you can just keep slicing things in. So there's a couple of things here on some of the ancillary data and some of these special parameter values. What this is referring to is within data profiles, there's more options here. You have the special ITM values. You're able to pull in data that you normally wouldn't have access to. I'm not going to go into detail on how to take advantage of this. Where you're going to see it is in our sample reports. I'll print out a couple of them just to show what they can do. So say for hangers, this is going to be a look at our updated hanger report for ITM hangers. You'll be able to do stuff like include ancillaries and actually pull out your ancillaries from this along with your hanger report. So this will be in the sample model that we post. But yeah, some really good enhancements to our reports. Pipe bomb might be another one. Yeah, because I mean, basically everything has ancillaries, so you can display that ancillary data. Also, our filtering, you'll see the reports now have these nice like organized panels. It cleans things up. And so now like we group all of our filtering methods, service, level, location. You can do by spool and things like that, depending on what it is. So a lot of maybe minor enhancements and cleanup, but it really makes these reports really powerful. The enter key I talked about. There's a couple of, or this option here. We have had a handful of support cases on work sharing issues during sync. So there is an option now within your workstation settings to disable background processes during work sharing sync. It's going to specifically call out these are the things that basically will not run or will not be triggered during a work sharing sync, and potentially could alleviate any hangups that occur. This seems to occur mainly when evolve and non-evolve users are doing similar things in the same model. But just be aware of this. This will actually also improve sync time. So know that that's there as well. The question, the hanger reports only work with evolve database. I believe these will work on most ITM hangers. I know there's a couple people here that could probably say if I'm wrong, but I think we've been testing this against other databases, and I believe this is working. Now, the way the report pulls in the data is through a profile. So I guess there's always this potential where certain parameters aren't in alignment. But yeah, this would be something to take a look at and see if it works on your side, but I believe it will. The hanger trapeze report, this only works for evolve hangers because of the way our parameters are structured. So that report would be only evolve, but those are families. Let's see, expansion option data profiles. It's on the same kind of topic as these. Enhanced Revit selection prompt. We talked about that. That's the blue window or the blue text that comes up. And the spool weight column in Prefab Manager. So I pointed that out already. So let's just run through a couple of changes here. I'll read through these and see if there's anything worth pointing out. The prompt user to save and continue, that'd be something if you come in here, whenever you're in a modified state and you're going to run something, this of course doesn't do it, but some of the tools will not let you, execute a function in a modified state. And now the prompt will be basically, do you want to save and continue? So you don't have to check the box, hit apply, then run it again. So you'll notice that come up from time to time. When you're utilizing configuration exchange, it'll override existing. So when you're updating profiles and things like that, that'll help. Let's see, updated Dev Express. One of the changes here is not allowing loose nested parts to deviate between spools and packages. So a spool contains all the nested parts, and a package also contains all those parts. So basically you can't wind up with spool 1 and spool 2 across one family, or package 1, package 2 across one family that contains nested parts. Subfolder to Foresight. I'll talk about the Foresight stuff in a second. Browser, restart Revit, updates, user projects path. This change has come with a couple of problems. We'll probably revert back, but we introduced a way to handle relative user paths. Certain environments didn't work right for this, so it did introduce another problem. So we may come back to this, but just know that might be a potential issue. Basically, if you're using your username directory to things like annotations, it could cause problems. The Foresight I'll come back to in just a second, and I think the rest of this stuff is just going to be oddball enhancements, bug fixes. Yeah, I think we're pretty good on all of that stuff there. So the Foresight, last thing I'll mention here is the Foresight link is removed. So you'll see in 7.0, the buttons are still here. The Foresight properties is all here. You can still do the same function. One thing you cannot do is create a new project from Revit, but you do not have to link a project to Foresight or anything like this. So this will not be prompted. You do not have to go in here. What we are doing going forward is a future update that will come out will actually remove this connection, and we will handle this as a separate integration to our tool. This will help speed up our development of the Foresight integrations and not tie us to kind of like a web development release. So it's just a product strategy that we're shifting. And I know we've gotten a lot of feedback on the issues with linking projects and all that kind of stuff. So we heard that loud and clear, remove that as a requirement, and slowly we'll be completely removing it from the main installer. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. Again, please read through the release notes. If anything in here that you have questions on, please reach out to us. Feel free to submit a support ticket as needed. But yeah, I will leave it there. And if there's any questions, I'll stick around to answer them. Oh, I did get an answer. The ITM report was built against the Origin database. So we definitely would be something you'd want to try out and see what the results are that you get. But I'm sure there'll be changes needed.
Great. Thanks so much, Adam. And if you guys haven't gotten the new update yet, you can find that by going to the evolvemep.com website. Under resources, go to the download tab. You'll find it all there. If you're looking for the archives, it will be at the top of that download page. All right. So with that, it doesn't look like we have too many questions here. So thank you everyone for attending the webinar today. As always, I hope that you found the information valuable. Make sure to follow us on social media to keep up with all of our upcoming webinars. You can also find more demos and the past webinars all on the Evolve YouTube channel. And once more, as a reminder, this webinar has been recorded and we will send out the recording in an email to all registrants. If you didn't have your question answered today, or if you feel like maybe it's a little more complex, please reach out to us, reach out to our support team. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.